This is a camera I have talked about before, and it's always a pleasure to talk about it, but there are several versions of it, and it's what I would call the second version, but it could have been at the same time as the first version. But let me get on and introduce the camera, and it's the Vito B. Voigtlander Vito B. And the Vito B was a camera which was started in about 1954, and the first range of the model was from 54 to 57, and from 57 to 59 they made a different version with a larger viewfinder. So this is definitely of the 54 to 57 version because it's got the small viewfinder, and I really quite like the small viewfinder. I think it's something to do with my eyes. Although the large viewfinder is supposed to be far better because you've got more area to see, I find I can't actually see in the whole area which I can in the small viewfinder. So let's actually talk about the Voigtlander. The Vito B was a well-made camera by this manufacturer Voigtlander, who had a very high reputation as a leading camera manufacturer, and they made high quality products. And this in 1954 was a really quite high-end camera. We have the Voigtlander, and remember Voigtlander was one of the first people to actually make photographic lenses, and we have here a scoper, colour scoper lens. Now the colour scoper lens is a 4-element lens, and it's of the same type as a Tessa, so it's a high quality lens, and this version is the 3.550mm. As you can see, one of the big things about this camera is its small size, and after the war there was a great push towards making cameras even smaller, and this is what you have on this Voigtlander. You have no rangefinder, you have no light meter, so to use the camera you have to manually focus. Let's first of all just talk about putting a film in. These do not fire without a film, so you have to put a film in to actually get anything from it, and quite often people pick them up, they think they're not working, but they haven't tested them with a film. So if you find one and you aren't sure if it's working, put a film in, and as soon as you put in a film you will be able to tell if it's working or not. So to put the film in, it's a slightly quirky design here. You open up from the bottom, and the back hinges open there, film goes here, across there, into here, close, make sure the back's firmly closed, close, and make sure that lever's firmly down, reset the numbers here, and you will be able to wind on. You won't be able to wind on, as I said, until you get the film in. Focus. We've got a good focus scale here, and it's interesting that this scale here is in feet, so it's for the American and the UK market. You do get models which have got the measurement in meters, so it's interesting that this one is probably destined for the UK and States market. Now, I thought this was a Model 1 but the second version, because the scale here with the f-stops and shutter timings on, and we got shutter from 300th of a second down to bulb. I considered that because this has what we call EV values on, and I've got another version without the EV values, that I assumed the EV values came in second. What is he going on about, you think? EV values stand for exposure values, and it's linking, it's like a sync between the shutter speed and the aperture. So for example, if I put the shutter speed of 125, and I've put the f-stop at 5.6. That gives me an EV of 12. And if I decided I wanted to go to a 60th of a second, it will actually then change the aperture to f8, because it's half the time, so it needs half the light going in, so it's half the aperture. So the EV exposure value gives you a value and then basically syncs your shutter and your aperture together. And in the 1960s, this was thought to be a big advantage, because once you have set your aperture or your shutter speed, the two are linked. So if you decide you want to go up and down a stop, it's easy and it's synced. And you sometimes get exposure meters, and they are set in EVs. Don't worry about EVs, it can drive you a little bit mad, but it was a system which was quite popular in the 60s. I quite like the Voigtlanders without the sync, but they're still nice cameras with, as I said, watch that you've got the counter at the front here, and you have to set that when you've used, so focus, so that's your aperture and your shutter speed. Click, wind on. At the end of the film, make sure you pop your rewind up and rewind here. I must say, I do find these a little bit of a pain to rewind, and I'm not sure why they didn't put the crank on. So I think these are great cameras. You can still purchase them for a very reasonable price. Do check them out first. Do check for fungus. I must say, for some reason they don't seem to suffer from fungus as much as some other 1950s cameras. I think they are very undervalued. People don't realise what good lenses they are. They are lovely to use. The only issue that they do sometimes have is that the self-timer, which is very much like a clock mechanism, really needs servicing, and these the cameras unfortunately don't get service. So I would not try the self-timer on there, and by the self-timer, it's on the side. From my memory, it's this V here. Having said that, I really enjoy using these cameras. I took these photographs back last summer, and it's lovely to see the warm sunlight here on this sign. This is a finger post which is common to Dorset, and I must say you can see the sharpness of the camera, the contrast is lovely. As you can tell, I'm a bit of a fan of these Vito Bs because they are a real practical camera. Yes, everything is manual, and you have to think about aperture, you have to think about the shutter speed, and there's no rangefinder, so you have to be pretty good at working out your distances. Having said that, the quality of the lens is excellent. It's very similar to, as I said previously, a Tesla lens. And these cameras are so compact, you can put them in a bag, take them out with you, and they look nice as well, especially the early Vito Bs. There's a Vito C and some other Vitos, which are still good cameras, but I think they really got it right on these first cameras. And as you can see, the sharpness of these letters here, you can see Lee, Chartnell, Yapminster. These are places on the Dorset-Somerset border. Lovely little villages, very quiet lanes, and you can see how quiet it is on this summer evening. Again, we've got quite long shadows. I love this time of the evening for taking photographs. I think the quality of light when you get these long shadows. I know filmmakers often go for early morning, then they can still get the shadows, but then they have longer shooting time, and the only trouble with shooting in the evening, you know that your time is limited.
I was using Formapan here, and I've developed it in D76. I often use ID11, but I had problems getting ID11, and D76 is a very similar developer, and all the developing times I find to be the same. So again, this is the last sign, and again, was delighted with the use of this camera, and it's definitely a camera I would strongly recommend. Not the easiest to use, but it teaches you a lot. Thanks for watching. Bye for now.